Hey, Andy, welcome to the Be Raire Podcast. How are you?
I'm good, Jessica. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. I feel like we've known each other through LinkedIn and followed each other's journey for quite some time now, but this is our first time actually speaking face to face. So super excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I know we connected a little while ago. I think back when I was hiring my first recruiter, which wasn't that, I think it was like a year ago now. And we've been connected and you've come really far and a lot of things have changed in the last year. You have this podcast and thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I've loved watching your journey as well, because I feel like we were in a similar situation at the same time where we both had our agencies, we were both working on our own, and then we went through a hiring process at a similar time as well. So actually it was great speaking to you at that point around what we were doing and, you know, working out your first hire and how that should work. So what I'd love to know in this podcast is a bit about your journey. So can you share some information about how you got started with Anila Recruitment?
Yeah, so Anila Recruitment is, so firstly, we're a specialist recruitment agency for education. We predominantly dominate the early years space. So the early years education, most people might know that as childcare and schools as well. So Anila Recruitment started, the idea came to fruition actually when I was on maternity leave. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do because I didn't particularly want to go back to working for someone else, but I just didn't know what that would look like in terms of the next steps. And then my husband was like, you know what? Have you ever thought about starting your own business? And I was like, absolutely not. Not happening. I have a newborn. But we talked it through. We talked through everything, and it turned out it wasn't. Look, the worst that could happen was that I'd fail, right? And so I went for it. I actually started Anila Recruitment. I really wanted to actually recruit for social workers because that's what I was doing beforehand. But I was navigating a non-compete. So this is the interesting part. I was navigating a non-compete. So I was like, where can I recruit? What can I recruit for? And I went back to my roots. So my background is actually education operations. So I worked in before and after school care centres while I was studying at uni. Moved into area management, and then after that went into recruitment because I wanted something a little bit different. That's where I recruited for social workers, had the baby, my daughter Alina, and then went into starting Anila Recruitment. And so what I was doing was navigating that non-compete around not recruiting for social workers, and thought to myself, okay, what do I know? Who do I know? How can I get into a different space and just kind of make it work? Ended up connecting with some people that I'd worked with before in the education space, and they gave me a shot. One thing led to another. Sat down one day and looked at all the jobs and thought, I think I'm going to be a specialist recruitment agency in education and not actually go into social work. It wasn't planned. It wasn't planned at all. I actually had planned to go into the social work space because I loved it so much, but found my niche, and it's something I know so well because I've managed so many, childcare centres before at one time. I know the operations, I know the compliance, and I know how difficult it is to recruit for in that space. So ended up finding my niche and established a really hot desk in childcare, and one thing led to another, and we're a team of 3 planning to grow hopefully nationally over the next 5 years.
Amazing.
I don't know if I went around that.
No, you definitely did. No, and I loved your journey as well. Of course, having you on my LinkedIn for quite some time, I've seen you go from 1 to 2 to 3 as well, which is amazing. And I'd definitely love to speak to you about that. But I want to ask, when you got into agency recruitment and then you just had free reign, that must be a really hard position for you to be in, because you're setting up behind the scenes the operations of the business. You're getting licenses for Seek or perhaps LinkedIn. I'm not sure if you use that, but how did you know what to do from a business sense?
I did loads of research. And I watched different videos. I connected with different business owners. I connected with people I know in the space. I talked to people. I just kind of got myself out there, which was really nice for me at the time, because I'd actually started Anila when my daughter I was about 4 to 5 months postpartum. Mind you, I'd planned on taking 12 months off, and 4 months in, I was like, I need to be doing something. I love being a mom, but I needed to also keep myself like busy and stimulated and just doing other things that I really, really love too. And that's what kind of kept me sane and happy as well, and fulfilled during that time, alongside being a mom, because I guess my career was something that was really important to me going before being a mom. And then when I became a mom, I felt like I was ready a lot sooner than what I thought I'd be to get back into the work. So I used that time to kind of, just talk to people, research, just plan, I guess. And in doing that, I just started off really basic. I was really conscious of the time that I had as well, because one of the things I didn't want to do was I didn't want to lose time with my daughter. So I would allocate myself 2 hours a week to begin with, and then it was 3 hours. But I can tell you now, the amount of work that I got done in those 2 to 3 hours is probably more than I get done in an 8-hour day now, because I knew I only had that. So I was very conscious of that, and just started off really small. I had one client for a little bit, and then I was, when I gave myself some more time, I picked up another client, and learned, I guess, what I needed from those experiences. So as I made placements, I realized, okay, I could probably be doing this bit better, and I can probably invest in something like this, and what would be the ROI on that? Because obviously starting out quite small, I needed to be very money conscious of where I was, putting, I guess, where I was investing my time and money as well, because I was so small to begin with. And so I just kind of learned from experience and just did loads of research. And a lot of the work that I did was after hours. So I had a lot of time after I put my daughter down, I would just read, go online, watch YouTube, listen to podcasts, like probably this. And then, just learn from people.
Yeah, that's ultra inspiring. I actually get a lot of questions from aspiring agency owners, and they'll say to me, can you just point me in the right direction of how to start? Because I don't know where to get started. And I can definitely point people in the right direction, but ultimately it depends on so many different factors, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of the time recruitment is about working out your niche and what you're good at and rolling with that as well, because each industry that you recruit within, or each type of role, is so different to the next. So what I do is different to what you do every single day. So there's a lot that goes into it. And I think, it's some things work better for others than they do the other person. So with that, you're obviously being a new mom, you've got a new business, you've got a new baby, you've got a family at home. How do you juggle and prioritize even to this day?
Look, I do have a mental breakdown every now and then.
I expect you do.
I would be lying if I sat here and said, just block out my calendar and I just make it work. I'd be absolutely lying. It's really hard. It is really hard. But I think that the way that I juggle it really well is, I don't even think I'd say I do it really well. I think I do my best, and I'm learning every day. And doing this back when Alina was a lot younger. So she's 2.5 now, about the same age as Anila Recruitment. And she, because I got so used to allocating time to do things, I've kind of continued that, but I'm very strict on, because for me, obviously working in this space as well is being present and being available and being, I guess, conscious of my time with Alina. That work's not absorbing that. I'm very strict on when I start work, when I finish work, and the girls know that as well. I'm very transparent. So I will, in the morning, I take Alina to school, to daycare. She goes 4 days a week. I don't work Fridays because her and I spend the day together, and I'm completely offline. Drop her off at school. I'll be honest, my husband is very, very helpful, and we bounce off each other. So we have this massive like calendar thing on our fridge, and I'll pop in there when I'm in the office. He'll pop in there when he's in the office. And we just plan our weeks ahead. We'll plan our dinners, everything. Like everything's really planned so we can make it work. And so I'll take her to school, and then I'll know, okay, I work 8 till 4 normally, 8 till 4:30, and then I can pick her up. And then the afternoons, I actually put my phone on Do Not Disturb. And the only time that I'll get alerts is if it's urgent. So I'll go in and I'll check, and I can see the urgent alerts. And that might be the girls or whatever it might be. And if the girls call me, their names will pop up because they're an exception to the rule on my phone. And that's purely so I can get dinner ready and be present for Alina and be there. Wow. So and on Fridays, as you know, I have Fridays off and I spend the day with her. It's and then when I put Alina down, I'll be honest, I do work sometimes. I'll spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours here just doing a bunch of things. And then my husband and I actually have a non-negotiable. We both work in sales. He's an enterprise sales rep for an IT organization, and I obviously work in recruitment, so very, very busy roles. But we have like this thing where whatever we're doing after we put Alina down, we meet at the couch at 9 o'clock and we will watch TV and spend time together 9 till 10. So what I would say is the way that we manage it and the way that I manage it is just being conscious of my time and what I'm doing between certain periods. But I don't always get that right. I'm not perfect. It's very hard. But I think that when you get your priorities straight and you know what your priorities are, and you manage people's expectations, that's a big part of recruitment and life. You manage people's expectations. I think that it's easier to achieve these sorts of work-life balances. And
I truly admire that because I'm not a mum, I've got a cat, so I've got no excuse. But I have a real big challenge with, to be honest, setting boundaries with clients because I'm somebody who always feels like I need to be on. If I'm not on and I miss that call, maybe I'll miss out on the candidate. And I think that's a mindset I've had drummed into me over the years, particularly from learning recruitment back 15, 16 years ago when it was like very, you have to be there. It wasn't as flexible as what it perhaps is now. But I'm ultra inspired by your story because as well, being an entrepreneur and having your own business, a lot of people will say, well, you have to work 12-hour days, 15-hour days, you have to give up everything. But you've managed to build this system around succeeding in work and not just succeeding, but excelling because you're growing your team as well as managing family time and having those boundaries and that work-life balance as well. But my question is, with regards to your clients and candidates, do you fully set those expectations and say, crystal clear, this is what I work, this is when I'll respond to you, or how do you manage that?
So I'm actually quite lucky because with candidates in our space, a lot of them do tend to finish work at 6:30. So this has played in my favor because between 6 and 6:30, we're bathing, putting Alina down. She's in bed by 7:30. I can then text the candidate, sorry, missed you. Are you free for a chat now? Because they're not going to be available again until the next day at 6 or 6:30. So I can actually talk to candidates, and the girls are the same. We manage our time so that we talk to candidates either before they go to work or after they finish work, because they finish work so late. They're on the floor. They're not allowed to have their phones on them. If a person answers their phone during work, it's kind of a red flag. I'm quite lucky. I can talk to candidates at anywhere between 6:30 and 7 o'clock. And if I have a scheduled call with a candidate, I'll let my husband know, and then I'll talk to him. So candidates I do tend to talk to. With clients, I would say that most of my clients know that I don't work Fridays. And I've never really encountered any issues with it. I've actually been very honest about it. And I put a post up on LinkedIn quite some time ago about it as well, because I think it's something very important to me. And I think as a parent, I wouldn't say woman, I would say parent in business or even just a parent that's working, I think it's really important that you're honest. I remember reading something somewhere, because in the beginning I was very conscious of the fact that I wasn't working, and I was really awkward with clients and communicating and setting that boundary. Yeah. I was really awkward. I didn't know how to, and this might have just been the new mum in me, but didn't know how to communicate it. And I read somewhere about just being honest and just being real and just being human. And I started to do that, and it just got so much easier. And that's what I've started doing. And I'll just be honest. Oh, yep, got my daughter on Fridays. Had my daughter sick one day at home, and I had a client calling me. It was a new client as well, someone that was reaching out for some support. And I answered the call, and I was just honest. I said, I've got my daughter home with me today. He's unwell, just letting you know in advance in case you hear her in the background. And he was so fine with it. He was so fine with it. And we've worked with him long term now. So I think being real, being human is really important. And yeah, just knowing what you can and can't do during certain times as well. You know, I know my daughter really well, and I know that I can't take Teams calls with her because she's like, who's there? You know, really and it can be a bit, you know, really difficult to get the work done. But you just kind of manage people's expectations, set those boundaries, be confident, be human, be real. And yeah, everything kind of works out. There might be a client that doesn't appreciate it, but that's fine.
Yeah. There's always more clients. It is better to be raw. I think, you know, going back a few years ago, and yes, I'm speaking about recruitment here, but I'm also speaking about so many other roles. Like, it was very much corporate and formal and 9 to 5 and very allocated. You had to be seen in a certain way. Whereas nowadays, environments that were once like that, they've actually just relaxed a lot as well. When people are working from home, people are wearing T-shirts and jeans in the office. So I think just the world since COVID has moved to a more understanding route and more of a work-life balance. And there is that expectation now of like, well, you are a mum and that is more important. Whereas I think maybe say 5, 6, 7 years ago, perhaps it was just like, well, this is a job you've got to do. And actually it was a very different mindset. That's what I come across a lot as well, especially recruiting recruiters, because I work with a lot of people who are mums, and they do get a lot more leniency on their personal essential circumstances than back in the day, when it was kind of like, well, you're going to have to find a way to work around it, because if you want a job, it's in the office 5 days a week, you know. So yes,
you're so right. You're very, very right. And we are so lucky to live in the time that we do as women and mums and parents as a whole, because there's been this huge movement, especially post-COVID, that I know is, you know, it almost feels like a privilege still, but it will become a norm. And we are so lucky. I think that, going back, you know, 20 years ago, I think that women in business and parents in business had it a lot harder than what we do. And I'm very grateful every day that I have the flexibility and I have the understanding of other, like I call them people. My clients are people, they're humans, they have family too. And I'm so grateful for their understanding. I mean, on the flip side, I've also had clients call me when they've done pickup, because they literally haven't gotten to recruitment until far on the other side of the day. So, you know, they'll call me at 5:30 and they're doing pickup and they're driving, and their daughters or their children, their boys are screaming in the background. I feel like it's so normal now. Maybe it's a bit more common in my line of work, because I work in the education space.
Yes.
And the education space is quite a female dominant industry. And so we work with a lot of women. I would say a lot of our clients are women. And I'll actually never forget, I had a client who he was male, and he was a dad, and we had a scheduled meeting, and he'd actually emailed me, sorry, just putting Bub in the car for my wife. I'll call you in 5. I was like, I love that. And that was so real for me. So that's just an example for you. I think it's very normal. And even though, going back to when I didn't have a child, I think that when you work, the biggest thing I say to the girls is work smart. Don't work hard, work smart, work really smart. Sometimes you have to work really hard first, and then you'll find your rhythm, and then you'll be able to work smart. But Even before I had a child, I don't think I worked in recruitment. I was the highest biller on the team, consistently, quarter on quarter. I worked 9 to 5. I didn't work 15-hour days. I didn't work. Maybe I was taking the occasional call or sending the occasional emails on the train, but I can't say that I worked morning till late night to get those billings up. What I can say is that I knew the time I had, and I was really strict with my time in the office. And I'd have a quick conversation, but I knew I just needed to get back to it because I didn't want to work the extra hours to have, 5 other conversations throughout the day. So I think that there's a way to do it, even when you're not a parent. I think there is a way to do it. There's a common misconception that you have to work so many hours to be successful. And you do become successful when you do that. I agree. But there's got to be a balance, otherwise you'll burn out.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, absolutely. Within the hours you work, would you set yourself particular targets or KPIs of within this 1 hour, I must speak to 5 people? Or is it more so just outcome based? You've got your time and you just do what you can within that.
I don't put a figure on it. I do write that I will do, for example, business development for an hour. And I will know what my priority business development people are or companies are, and I'll tap into that and spend the hour to do that. I don't have particular number targets, but I know that that's quite common in recruitment. But the way that my brain works, I'm not successful when I do those sorts of things. And I wasn't successful when I was given those sorts of targets either. I think that every person works differently. And I think that one size doesn't fit all. So that particular approach doesn't work for me. I need to have like a short amount of time to do something. And if it's a big task, I need to bite away at it for that short amount of time and come back to it 3 hours later and do it again for another short amount of time. So I don't put a number on it. I just give myself time and a task, and I work on that task and I get it done.
Yeah, wow, awesome. No, I love that. I feel like time management is every single recruiter's challenge, isn't it? And I mean, you have to work out your own systems as well. Like my system, for example, is I do all of my most important tasks first because I'm a morning person. And when it gets to about 3 o'clock, I start flaking off. So mentally then I just don't have the capacity to deal with the same level of problems as I do at 7 o'clock in the morning. And that works for me. So I look at my day, I'm like, right, what's the hardest thing to do first? And then I'll do it in that order as well. And then towards the end of the day, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm chatting to people, I'm making all my posts and things like that. But that's wasted time if I do that in the morning, because that's when I'm like, right, okay, let's go. What's happening? How am I going to make money this month, etc. So yeah, it's about working out your own system. But I'm intrigued to know, because you've had a couple of super successful hires as well. So you've added 2 people to your team, and I wanted to know how you've done that, because these girls have really helped you out by what you've said. So yeah, talk me through the process. We'll start with your first hire, Adele. How did you find her?
The wonderful Adele. Adele actually applied for the job. Yeah, she came for an application. Rare, huh?
Yeah, very rare. Yeah. Oh, I wish my life was that easy.
I know. It's so weird. It happened that way. So she applied for the job, and it was my first hire. I was so scared. I was so scared about making the wrong decision. I was so scared, umming and ahhing about whether or not it was the right time. But I knew it was the right time. I just wasn't trusting myself. I was really, really scared. So she applied for the job, and really, like the true recruiter that she is, sold herself. And mind you, sold herself in terms of over the phone. She called me to follow up on her application. Bless her. Wow. Reminded me her application was there. I went and had a look again, read through it, was really happy, scheduled a meeting with her. We did that through Teams. And then I told her I'd get back to her in a couple of days. She followed me up within a couple of days. And at the time, she said she had a couple of offers at the time. And I said to her, tell me, why do you want to work for me? you've got other offers. I'm a small business. You're literally my first hire. That's a huge risk. Transparently speaking, that is a huge risk for you. Why do you want to work for me? And she's like, I'll never forget this. She's like, it's you. I want to work for you. And I said, what do you mean by that? And she's like, it's what she was really passionate about working with a small business, a female small business owner, and contributing to that. And so she really, really sold herself on the call and did really, really well. Followed me up. She was the only person that stood out in terms of her keenness, her eagerness, her just her enthusiasm. And one thing ended up, I took about 3 weeks to get back to her. But horrible, because it was like she had other offers, and I said to her, look, it's okay if you end up taking something else. I just need time to make sure I'm making the right decision. Wrote down all the pros and the cons. I was very thorough because I was so scared about my first hire. And ended up offering her the position, and it's been, the best decision I ever made. She's a wonderful recruiter, and she's so ethical and honest, and she's everything that I guess was looking for in terms of not even someone that is a great biller, but someone who encompasses all of our values. She's honest, she's fair, she's ethical, she's really cares. And I think that's hard to find sometimes in recruiters and people that have done recruitment before, because I guess it is a sales job, isn't it? And so to work in sales, sometimes you need to be really hard and a real like a real hard ass sometimes. And sometimes that's really hard for our sector because it just doesn't match. Whereas Adele really encompassed all of those and aligned really well with the sector. And she's been wonderful ever since, and I've loved working with her. And she's coming on to her 1 year with me next month.
Amazing. Oh, that's awesome. I think the first hire is always the scariest one, isn't it? I know it was for me, and it's so funny because we're recruiters and it's like we should know what we're doing, but when it's your own hire, it's like, am I doing the right thing? And you start to second guess yourself. But I think having a small boutique agency is such a risk when you invest your time into training and your finances into making sure that their salary is all covered, and what if they don't bill and all of that. So it definitely seems like a bit of a challenge. And I think, being able to be thorough throughout that process is absolutely critical. And look, it's amazing that she waited the 3 weeks and bought into you.
I know.
See this a lot as well, and obviously I teach a lot of personal branding, but I always say, look, people buy into you. They don't work with your company, they buy into you. So in the same principle, that's exactly what's happened in your case as well. Like, you've been a magnet to someone who's actually wanted to work with you, which is probably why all of your clients and your candidates are just as understanding with you and your circumstances, because they're like, I don't care if she doesn't work Friday. She's the best person to do this job because she's raw, honest, transparent, and they've really bought into that, which I think that in itself is one of the things in recruitment that can't be taught. But when you've got that natural ability to attract people, I think those recruiters always excel and do the best.
That's true.
When it came to training and onboarding, did you have processes in place? Because I know, I'll be honest, when I did my first hire, I had this Word document, and I was like, so we're just going to run through this. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm doing. But I didn't realize I didn't know until I had this first hire. So I'm keen to know your experience. I hope it was better than mine.
Oh my gosh, it was about the same. So I wanted to be really prepared, and I put a whole bunch of different things in her calendar. Training that we would go through first started with systems, and then because Adele came with a bit of recruitment experience, but didn't come with sector or knowledge in the sector in childcare. So we spent a lot of time around education around the sector and the frameworks, and I really kind of dug into that quite a bit, because I think that's really, really important when it comes to successful recruitment in my space, in our space, in the education sector. So we really honed in on that, because I figured I could see that she could do recruitment. That was fine. was more about understanding the sector and the space. So we went through that, talked about, did a space, different personas in the sector and different candidates, different clients. But I didn't so much have a Word document. I just had like my own checklist of things that I wanted her to, get through and learn. And as time went on, I would mark her. I'm very good with, I guess, my brain. My brain works really well with colors. So when she first started, everything was in red, and then it turned yellow, and then it went green. So that indicated, the level of understanding and learning that she's gotten over the course of time to achieve those certain things. And that varied from using, understanding the sector to using job adder or compliance, so document compliance and all of those sorts of things. But I didn't have a document. It was actually quite just lots of team meetings and calls and practice, role playing, just all of that stuff. And and then we worked on jobs together and we went through the process together. That's something that I find very important when it comes to training. And I've always done that even outside of recruitment. When I was working in operations as an area manager, I would like to sit down with people and go through the process together so we could learn from the process together, because, as I say, everyone learns differently. So I was just trying to understand what's her form of learning, what does she, take to well, and just literally was just like hand-holding for a bit. And then I felt confident that she was, comfortable picking up a job here and there, and she did. And then one thing led to another, and she's just taken that whole desk and run with it.
Good.
No Word documents, just it's almost the same, just calendar invites and Teams meetings and a checklist.
Yeah, 100%. I did have this whole framework mapped out, but then when I looked at it, when it's all standard stuff that you don't necessarily actually teach, so mine was it was a little bit messy. But yeah, it's always interesting.
I have a question for you. Do you feel like when you were on your own, before you went, the process that you had before you hired someone versus the process that you now have, do they look quite similar, or are they very, very different?
Do you know what? Totally different, actually. So back then, I pretty much, I used ChatGPT to get like a framework of what I needed to do in order to onboard a new starter. And then I was like, right, okay, what would someone need in terms of the recruitment knowledge? And I pretty much just put like candidate management, sales training, systems training, like had an order. But now what I've done is I use a system called Loom, which is a video software. So what I ultimately do is I've recorded all of the training and onboarding now, and it sits in Loom. So basically what I do is I'll do the in-person training session, but they've got a Loom video to watch as well, so they can always refresh themselves. So I literally have like screen shared how to use the system, how to do everything, how to do a BD call in order. I've got like visuals. And I've got an operation manager who made all like the standard operating guides as well. So she's got all these fancy guides with links and to the Loom videos and things. So it's quite automated now. And now I've got that real structure of the process to put them through. But do you know what? I got that with help from my first hire, because then I pretty much actually said to her, which is quite funny, I said, can you actually document this for me? As I'm teaching you, can you document? And then what we did is together we created something. So I kind of merged it into her job anyway, just as more of a reflection tool, to be honest. And I also wanted to see what I'd missed and what her understanding was. And that's ultimately why I did that. And then we just made that into more of a formal process. So yeah, it took a bit of time. Yeah. That's it.
That's working smart, not hard.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. I feel like I've been in roles in larger agencies where like delegation, you have to delegate and everyone has their own set role. So I actually in recent years got quite used to delegating a lot of things and ownership and accountability, because otherwise I'm like stressed to my eyeballs with a million loose ends and things to do. So I'm quite strict on, this is my jobs, this is my responsibility, and this is yours, and this is if you need my help, I'm here, but we're very segregated in terms of what we do. Otherwise it gets too much grey area and it gets kind of messy. So that's just worked for me. I'm a structured person, so that's probably good for you. So with the team growing, what are your growth plans looking like in 2024?
So for 2024, we're focusing on growing our Victorian recruitment team, and that's where Manette is focusing. So Manette focuses on Victoria and regional New South Wales. And we have plans to move into the temp space as well, which is exciting, but in a not so traditional way, something in a way that aligns with my mission and my purpose at Anila Recruitment, which is what we look to do is be a strategic long-term solution. We're not about quick fixes, because we know that continuity in staff for children and educators. So continuity in educators for children is so important in their development, especially in those first 5 years. So we are going to continue to contribute to that, but do temp a little bit differently.
Amazing. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's always good to grow out the divisions and the temp side of the business as well. I think it's a lot of recruiters, when they've got agencies, will fear that side of things because it can seem terrifying at first, knowing how to manage the workers and the volume and the amount of invoices, but it's always worth it. They say the business is valued at such a higher amount if you've got a temp book and that recurring revenue as well. So it's always good to, add that layer to the business.
I agree, and we've had clients ask us about it. It's been something that we've been asked so many times. But I'm very strong on, like I said earlier, knowing what my capabilities are in a certain time, and then when the time's right, I know when I should be doing these extra things. I don't like to under deliver and over promise. So I agree. It's a very scary thing to go into. We're actually in the exploration phase at the moment. So really understanding what that looks like, rather than just like jumping in it and, not being prepared. So it might take us some time, but that is the goal for 2024. And we'll see where that takes us.
Yay, so exciting. Well, I wish you all the best with that as well. I hope it goes well, and I can't wait to stay in touch with you about what's happening. But to finish off, I love to ask your top 3 pieces of advice. Then, because you've taken the leap of faith and you've gone out on your own and you've started your own agency, if there's anyone watching this who aspires to go out on their own and start their own agency, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice for them?
The top 3 pieces of advice I would give are, first one being, trust your abilities and be confident in that. I think that it's very easy to doubt yourself and doubt your abilities, even though you are good at what you're good at. Just be confident, do your research, understand what you're getting into. And that would be number 2, do your research. Very, very important, something I've learned a bit later in life, but research is so important. And the third would be, don't forget that you have people around you that you can lean on. That's also something that I didn't realize until later on in starting Anila. I obviously did at the beginning, but I think knowing who's around you and knowing that they come with different skill sets, knowledge, experiences that you can learn from and grow from. You don't always have to go and, pay for a training or pay for things. Being really smart with the way that you get information, and obviously always fact check, but lean on people as much as you can. And it goes back to, as well, lean on people and delegate if you have someone to help you as well. Those would be my top. I think the third one is really important. Leaning on people is really important, and just go for it. Just go for it. The worst that can happen is you lose and it doesn't go well, and you learn from it.
Absolutely. And you'll learn more from taking that leap of faith and actually putting a plan into action than always dreaming about it. That's always my advice as well. Save enough money so you can give it a red hot crack, and then just go for it. Set yourself up for success first, of course, exactly how you've said. But what's the worst that can happen? And if you can recruit in a company, you can recruit for yourself as well. And there's more of a motivation to do it for yourself because it's your baby. So, great.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, look, thank you so much, Andi. It's been great having you on here as well. I wish you all the best with everything happening this year, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Really grateful for your time.